Next movie to bring up our spirits, Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah.
My favorite film of the year.
I don't know if it was my favorite of the year, but certainly one of my favorite 3 Oscar films.
So it takes place, in northern Massachusetts, which is right where we live. We're just a little south of here, but same culture. It was, for us, it was like the people that are on screen were like
Our high school friends.
or extended family members or something like that. The film showed incredible restraint in terms of cinematography, in terms of letting scenes breathe. The dialogue was whip sharp. It was funny. It was fucking tragic. I cried through the whole movie.
The acting was fantastic, and they had to act so much because there wasn't that much dialogue and everything.
It's very naturalistic. It just to give you like at the ending, the nephew and him are like bouncing a ball, but they're struggling to catch it, and they're stumbling down the road. Like in another movie, they'd be perfectly passing it back and forth to each other. There's something that's oh, this is something that happens to me. Like I'd make
There were moments in the film that I'm really glad it was so restrained. Like when he sees the photos, but we don't cut to the photos. That's a powerful moment to never actually see the face of those photos. You see him caring for the photos, bringing them to the new place. I mean,
it respects the
stuff.
intelligence of the audience. A lesser movie would go to that close up and play some sappy music, and you'd see the faces of all, because it's his kids, the 3 kids.
It's just the opposite of La La Land.
And the framing makes the frames look like tombstones. It's beautiful.
A lot of smart stuff. And how about the fact that it takes a half hour before the movie even tells you what's going on in this guy's life?
Yeah.
But you don't need that time. You know he's damaged.
The performance shows you clearly that something's emotionally wrong with this person, and you start feeling like pain for him almost immediately.
It's almost insulting that Ryan Gosling and Casey Affleck are both nominated for Best Actor because there's a huge ocean.
Yeah.
There's the Pacific Ocean between them.
Me and Michael Jordan are nominated for Best Basketball Players.
Exactly.
I'm really impressed by Casey. So I don't know if you guys know this story, but I guess Matt Damon wanted to do a directorial debut. He had never directed anything. So Matt Damon synced up with the guy who wrote and directed this movie, and he said, "Could you write the script for me?" And so the guy wrote the script, and then it was taking a while to get it made. So eventually Matt Damon's schedule booked up, and he said, "You know what, why don't you direct it?" And then a little down, and he goes, "I'll just act in it." Because Matt Damon was supposed to be the Casey Affleck character. And then a little more time passed, and he said, "You know what, just give it to Casey." And so Matt Damon removed himself as being the main character and the director from this film. And it was the best thing that he ever did, because I can't imagine anybody but Casey doing it.
I can't imagine Matt Damon in that role at all.
He's a big famous guy walking around being naturalistic.
So
the fact that Casey's a little less
it helps a lot.
superstar, I think it does help a lot.
It lends an everyman to it.
He's got a hardness.
I've never been thrilled by Matt Damon's accent, and that could be a local nitpicky thing, but it always stands out as too much.
Yeah, because Casey I grew up kind of in a towny area just like this, so it did remind me of somebody you would grow up with. I love they made beauty out of just the type of things you would see in a small towny area with the wires. They did some nice film filming them in a weird pattern and
kind of the barrenness of it and the cold, but it was still there was still some really pretty elements.
But the director was Kenneth
Longerman.
Has he done anything else?
Nothing I've seen, but he's also I know he worked with Casey at the West End, so he's also a stage director. He taught at Emerson.
That's amazing.
For a little bit.
The only thing I'll say about I love the film, but I'll add a little bit of negative, little things I didn't care for. I thought it relied a little too much on classical music as a big overture to underpin things.
There was a little bit of kind of overplayed musical cues at times.
Yeah, and I thought it could have been a little tighter. You could have cut out a little bit of some of the side stuff, especially with his mother's reestablishing the relationship with the son. I thought you could have lost it, but overall, I mean, it is definitely probably the best picture or in the top 2 for my best picture.
But it feels like it's hated on or something. Am I wrong?
No. Okay. So here's the story: is that I talk to my coworkers about movies all the time. I explained how I loved Manchester by the Sea, and then this guy comes in, this big tall guy, manly man. He's like, "Hey, I just saw that Manchester by the Sea. Oh, what a boring movie. It's like really dark." And you know, I think there is a lot of people who just think it's boring. Just think it's.
I think that I mean I've talked to a few people who really like La La Land but really didn't care for Manchester by the Sea.
If you want fun and bright and colorful, Manchester by the
it's
Sea
not
ain't
for
it.
I think it's because it made them feel bad. I mean, that movie made me feel bad.
That's like I don't like spicy food. I don't know. It's like
It's an inept argument, but I think that people who aren't who don't even look at film with any kind of mind will look at those two movies and say, "Oh, La La Land made me feel good," whereas Manchester by the Sea didn't make me feel good, so it wasn't that great a movie.
It's very disappointing to me.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. La La Land, I think, is even like it's like worse than like The Artist. You know, like.
Well, I mean, the number one thing that will turn me off from a film is pretense, being pretentious, and La La Land was just abundantly pretentious, and Manchester by the Sea wasn't pretentious at all.
Yeah, like it. You know, you could say because I don't know, we're kind of I don't think we're snobby because we like Guardians of the Galaxy next to Manchester by the Sea. You know,
But we study film.
we study film and we like the nuances and it just had really solid direction. Like it knew exactly what it like
without needing to prove anything.
La La Land feels like, oh, I'm gonna cram all this stuff because maybe somebody will like it. Yeah. Like maybe the Hollywood types will like it. Okay. Manchester was like, I have a story to tell, and this is how I want to tell it, and that strength really moves it along.
I also would like to say that I know he's nominated for Best Supporting. The kid.
That was very good.
Yeah, he was very good.
Again, he reminds me of somebody I grew up with, like a townie kind of guy.
Really, really well played, really believable character. So
I don't understand him in the ways I don't understand real 16-year-olds. So I was like, he's a very bizarre kid. And
that came off very realistic.
Yeah, and I like the interactions with Casey Affleck.
And his multiple girlfriends and his...
Lee is like talking about all his multiple girlfriends and the way he's like, I don't like her. Like, you know, like it was just so, like it was... I don't know. I'm an uncle. I'd probably say some similar things.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it makes me, it's a story about can you ever make personal progress when you have a tragedy that you'll never recover from. Mm-hmm. And that's
an interesting story.
That's an extremely human story, and watch it and it must have been a feast for Casey Affleck. It's an actor's dream.
It is true. Like everybody who's had a tragedy, you live with it in some way.
But normally you channel your energy into something else. You have other children, or you have your wife, or you have your career.
Yeah.
If you don't have any of those, if you've had your whole family taken away from you, and you were never that passionate about like your job or career or anything anyway, and you have nothing to channel it into, what do you do? And you just shut down.
You pretty much died. Yeah. And
that was an interesting take for me, because normally you see people get passionate about something else, or like their child had cancer, and so they become like cancer advocates, and there's nothing he can advocate for.
That scene where he's just like, I can't beat it. Oh my God.
And it's not irrelevant that it's a story about this area too, because we have, there's a masculinity that comes with this area, or like a kind of an Irish repressed emotional thing.
Yeah. Well, having it take place in winter, like that barren coldness that we have absorbed as New Englanders.
And also a bunch of fishermen, basically.
Yeah, right.
And like the area I grew up with has a lot of factories that closed down, and you see these ghosts of the factories, these families that haven't moved on from that prosperous era,
right?
And they're just still haunting the area. Yeah. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah. And when we meet this character, he's pretty much The Walking Dead, Yeah.
What a way to start this thing, just the high and the low.
Well, that gets it out of the way, and then the rest are all mediocre to good.
We'll go flying through the next ones.
I think there's something wrong with me. Do you want me to call your friends? What do you want me to do? I'm not gonna bother you. I'm gonna just sit here until you calm down. All right, I'm calming now. Would you please just go away? No.